Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's conversation is really shining the light on sickle cell anemia. A lot of you have heard a lot about it, especially now that it's getting attention because the more and more people who are suffering are being diagnosed with sickle cell, either their carers or the people themselves are advocating and speaking out about this tremendous pain that we go through. My guest is Francois Laporte. Francois Laporte Jr. He is an author, pain warrior, advocate for sickle cell disease and chronic illnesses. And we will be discussing living with sickle cell and finding your purpose. We'll be talking about his background, how he was diagnosed with sickle cell, challenges he faced along the way, and also how he's been able to learn to live with the disease, what he's had to do to overcome those pain and adversity that comes with it. Meet my amazing guest, Francois, as we share his story. Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in the introduction, today's conversation really focusing on overcoming challenges. Are you going through your own mental pain? Are you going through physical, chronic illness, emotional pain, and thinking, gosh, this life is awful. How do I get through it? Well, my guest is an amazing guy. He'll be telling us about his own journey and why he finds it within him to keep going. Francois will be telling you about his obstacle, pain that has been thrown at him, but why he keeps going. Francois, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Honored because anyone who listens to your page or watch your postings on Instagram, Facebook, all they will see is joy and happiness. They will not really know that behind all of this joy and happiness, behind all of these words of encouragement, you are going through your own pain. You know, you talk about it, but you don't talk about it in a way that you are in pain, suffering. You talk about it in adversity. I could find my joy. Thank you for joining me, and I would love to share your story. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be in your presence.
Thank you. So before we get started, one of the questions I'd like to start with is, who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
I am the son of two Haitian immigrants, Francois G. Laporte Sr. and Raymond Laporte. They migrated to this country in the late 60s. They actually are the epitome of what I strive to be in terms of strength. And so I draw from them. I live to honor them, though they're not here with me anymore. I live to honor them in a way to make them proud of all the sacrifices that they made. And in that, you know, I am who I am. I'm an advocate for those who live in chronic pain and suffer from chronic illness. I'm a mentor. I'm a husband. I'm a father. So many ways to describe me, but first and foremost, I just want to be remembered as someone who gave more to this world than I received.
That is so wonderful. I love that. Someone who gave more to the world than I received. And that is such a rare commodity today in people's life. Everyone wants to take and forget that the more you give, the more you add value to your life. So this is so amazing. When you look at your background growing up, I know you gave very good exemplary of your parents and your people who brought you up into this world. When you look at your background growing up, what was it truly like?
It was, at the time, it was wonderful. I didn't realize the struggle. And I think that's part of great parenting. Your children have it so much better than you did, and you strive to make that a priority. So growing up, we didn't grow up with much in terms of material things, but I can't recall a time ever having to go without food, without shelter. So we grew up modestly, but we grew up, felt like wealthy, you know, in the way that my parents raised us. Adversity didn't begin for me until maybe 2 years old, when I was officially diagnosed with sickle cell disease. And
yeah, go ahead.
that's when the struggle, and that's when I guess the struggle began, trying to define what normal was for a child with sickle cell disease. Yeah, I'm one of six, and two youngest, myself and my youngest sister, were the two that had the disease. Everyone else had the trait.
Oh, wow.
So my parents didn't know anything about the disease. They knew nothing about what it encompasses until I was born, and then 4 years later, my baby sister.
So if you think about sickle cell, for those who might be joining this conversation, and probably join my Painless Universal conversation for the first time, if you to give a synopsis, what is sickle cell? How would you describe sickle cell?
Sickle cell is a rare blood disorder that affects the red blood cells, which are responsible for carrying oxygen throughout the body. Normal cells are shaped, let's say, shaped in a circle.
Yeah.
And sickle cell, what happens is some of your cells are shaped just like a sickle. And that creates flow issues, blood flow issues. So your cells tend to get blocked. They block the flow, which creates tremendous pain. It affects every part of the body, which is something that doesn't get spoken enough about. Sickle cell affect, there's nowhere in your body that sickle cell can affect, because blood is everywhere. And so we're prone to things such as stroke, heart attack, infection, organ failure, and things of that nature because of this blood disorder. It's a very complex disease, yes.
So growing up as a child, can you remember some of the difficulties you and your sister who has sickle cell as well? What were some of the challenges at home? Because you two were there. I always tell people, because I don't like leaving it out, I also have sickle cell anemia myself, so I struggled massively with it. I learned to do it by sickle cell, I think, when I was after having my son. Reality really hit me. I was like, you have to make a choice here. You can't keep feeling pity for yourself. But when you're a child, and I have to also say, I didn't want anyone else to have sickle cell in my family, because I felt it took so much away from my parents, just me alone. And I just thought, if there was another kid there with sickle cell, how much of us would we take from our parents? For you, how did you guys do it? How did your parents do it? You both living with sickle cell disease.
It's funny you asked, because my biggest fear was having a child with sickle cell.
Absolutely.
I couldn't even imagine knowing that what we endured and what we dealt with, just in regards of the hospitalizations and the pain, oftentimes that you live with, that you just don't even go to the hospital for. You just kind of have to suffer through it. And so it was really tough. And my parents didn't know exactly how to. So they sheltered us, anything to keep us from getting overexerted, anything to keep us from extreme temperatures, be it cold, be it hot. So we were sheltered a lot. And being typical children, we resented that. And so we resented sickle cell, because sickle cell kept us from what we perceived was normal, joining teams and swimming and relaxing at the beach, because you don't know, the water can be too cold. It can trigger a crisis and things of that nature. So it was really tough. It was really tough as a child. And it caused us to really, I know for myself, it caused me to be a little bitter as a child.
Yeah. So when did you, as you were growing up, living with these challenges, living with these blockage, I'll call them, where people put barriers to your success, because they always feel that if you get sick, it's also a liability on other people, because they have to leave the others at home and go stay with you in hospital. So the best they can do is actually protect you from being sick. And in process of protecting you, they actually put in a barrier on you. It's almost like you live in prison, but people I say people in the kindest way. We kind of live in a shelter prison, in a lovely home, beautiful prison, because
Yes.
everything we want to touch. Oh, the food is too hot. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
You have to drink this much water. Oh, you have to do this. I mean, so that brain of going out there to do and be adventurous never really came to us because we were always too scared. Where did you get that courage again to really go out and figure out who you truly are?
Ooh, that was a journey within itself, and it's an ongoing journey, if I'm honest. Having sickle cell disease was, especially in growing up in the 80s, it was something that wasn't as well, can I say, in the forefront per se, in terms of illnesses, diseases, chronic illnesses. And so we were told back then, your child might not live to see, they might live to be 12, they might live to be 15. And we were always given these dates. And it was, that within itself was traumatic. That within itself was something to really damage a child, For me, at the age of 13, I realized that I didn't want to be a victim of sickle cell. And even if I were to die from this disease, I would die on my own terms.
Wow. Okay.
And so it was at that point that I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted my life to look from my own perspective. And that came from a very traumatic hospitalization. And at 12, I went into the hospital, and I started to go into kidney failure from a very bad crisis, received the transfusion. The transfusion wasn't working. And the doctors were having a serious conversation with my parents in the room. Everyone thought I was heavily sedated, thought I was asleep. And I just basically had my eyes closed trying to deal with the pain. And when I heard the doctor telling my parents, if he doesn't make it through the night, if he doesn't get better throughout the night, he probably won't make it, into the morning. That is when I realized, okay, wait, this can't be real. I'm 12 years old. And that was like the end of the age of innocence for me. I'm 12 years old. You guys are talking about, I might not make it. If I don't make it to the next day, I might not make it to the next day. That freaked me out in a way that I thought about it and I said, no, I'm not going to die. I mean, I literally said, I'm not going to die. I said it to myself and I believed it. And, long story short, I'm here. I'm here. Made it through that crisis, and 2 weeks later, I celebrated my 13th birthday, and I knew then that there was purpose for my life. Regardless of what I had to deal with, illness-wise, I knew there was purpose for my life.
Oh my gosh, this is really great. And, you've gone on to have a family, and, you're achieving things within your own right that you never thought, it's that doctor saying that, look, this person is not going to make it. And there you are, we've gone on to achieve great things. How have you how did you shift that conversation of from people thinking you're not going to live past a certain age to shifting that conversation to actually doing things on your own terms? What did you do differently?
I decided to live. And I think at that age, it wasn't that deep for me. It was more the fear of possibly dying at such a young age. Like at 12 years old, I'm thinking, man, I'm still in middle school. I haven't been to high school. I haven't even had my first girlfriend yet, So I'm thinking on a real superficial level. But at 12 years old, those are the things that are important. I haven't even made 16 yet to get my learner's permit to drive a car, so you're thinking of all of these things on a surface level, but really, my soul knew something a lot deeper than what I knew at that age. And so deciding to live is something that people really don't do. We don't say to ourselves, I want to live. And we don't take the time to really define what living looks like for us. And so for me, with a chronic illness, and for people with chronic illnesses, we have to look at living in a different way. So we have to look at living in the sense of not necessarily what we can't do, but what we can do and maximize that potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. Because it's almost like you take it, okay, they're bad days. We're always going to have bad days, whether we like it or not, because we're born this way. But on our good days, guess what, guys? We're going to have fun.
Oh, yeah.
Do the things, we're going to explore, we're going to work harder, we're going to make up for all those sick days which were there, those bad days, right? And I think you're doing that so well, because you've become a peer, you're a mentor, and you're an advocate for sickle cell disease and other chronic illness. So tell me your typical work when you advocate for to other people, what do you normally tell them?
For the foundation here, we work with teens to young adults transitioning from pediatric care to adult care. This is such a critical period. I wish I had a peer mentor at that age to kind of walk me through and let me know some of the things that I can expect, some of the challenges that I might encounter. So a lot of the things that I talk about is basically acceptance. One of the hardest things for someone with a chronic illness or who suffers from chronic pain is just being able to accept this side of reality. We're in a law of attraction world. And so we believe that we can just wishfully think things away. But even the law of attraction deals with reality. We have to be able to accept our form of reality. Though we might want to change it, we have to first accept it. Nothing changes until we accept it. And so I want them to know that this is a disease that you will have for the rest of your life. But this dis-ease, not disease, but this dis-ease that you will encounter is not the be all end all, because so much of life is lived in between the lines. And so sickle cell is a line that's often drawn in the sand. Cancer is another line that's drawn in the sand. Rheumatoid arthritis is a line that's drawn in the sand. However, we find ways to live between those lines and not allow those lines to define us.
Absolutely. Wow.
And so when I'm able to talk to my mentees, I just tell them that, listen, the first thing you want to do is embrace this. Yes, I'm a sickle cell warrior. Yes, I have sickle cell disease. But I always remind them that you have it. It doesn't have you. And so you're in control and you have to define your normal. You have to define your normal.
I like how you said we're in control, because sometimes we forget. We think that the sickle cell is in the driving seat. We forget that. There are actually things we could turn around. There are actually things we could do to take even if we think it's in the driving seat, we could actually pull that damn sickle cell out of it, push it to the back and say, no, I'm in the driving seat, not you. So you to decide how I want my life to plan out. I'm not going to listen to anyone, not even you, sickle cell, because I could achieve this. And it's one of the things I love about your work, because you also teach sickle cell warriors to go through any adversity, to maximize their full potential in life and in business by leveraging your social media. How do you view that? That's really a unique thing to do.
Yeah. What I realized was those who suffer from chronic illness, and I'm even outside of sickle cell, what I've noticed is we have a tendency to, we get tunnel vision. And so we'll tend to focus on our disease. But when you really think about it, we're all terminally ill in one way or another, because life is a terminal disease, because we're all going to die eventually. And so
never saw that,
right. It's a little sobering when you think about it, but we're all dealing with something chronic in our life. We really are. Some of us don't realize that some of the choices we make are chronic choices. And so if we don't get a grip of the direction of our lives, if we don't command our minds in the way that we need to, we will end up suffering needlessly. And so when I thought about it, I looked at how sickle cell has impacted me. And I realized, as much as I've suffered physically from this disease, the majority of the things that I've endured were mental, in the sense of depression, in the sense of feeling despondent and hopeless, all of these things that come with a disease that makes you feel as if you're not good enough, or you can't be like everyone else.
Yeah.
As if that's a good thing anyway. You're trying to be like everyone else, but you want some sense of normalcy. And when I thought about chronic illness, I thought about all the ways that it affects people. 35% of people with sickle cell disease suffer from some form of major depression. 157 million people here in the States are dealing with some sort of chronic illness. And in that, we're dealing with mental illnesses as well that come along with having a disease. Yeah. And so I thought about it. I said, you know what? What I really want to do is get to the root and try to help people understand that adversity, be it in the form of the disease or be it in the form of a life challenge, be it work, be it family, there are principles that we can use that will help us transcend or overcome or rise above whatever adversity that you're dealing with.
That is so true. I never saw it this way. You just really hit the spot, because we all go through chronic pain. It doesn't matter if ours is sickle cell, but your choices of life also present chronic pain as well. And at the end of the day, we're all going to die. But how you choose your life between the beginning and the end, it's really up to you to decide. And to make that story the best story that is out there. I have a quote, and I've used it on social often, and I'll say, I'm passionate about winning at life because death is passionate about remaining undefeated. And so when you think about it, you have to be passionate about your life. You have to figure out, what is it that brings me joy? What is it that I can get up in the morning and look forward to? Because you do know that eventually we will run out of time. Absolutely.
And time is undefeated. So what can you do right now while you have life in your body to make your life something that not just blesses you, but blesses others?
That's so true. I love that. And you talk about sickle cell, but sickle cell wasn't just your only pain. It wasn't just your only chronic illness. You had other things that you had to deal with. Can you tell me about your journey and how you're dealing with these as well?
Sickle cell was a blow, but I reached a point where I started to figure out how to use sickle cell to my advantage, in a sense. I understood that I now have a default mechanism that lets me know when my body is tired, when my body needs a break, when my body needs some nurturing, when my body just, and so sickle cell was, when I understood what it was, it became an aid for me. It was my alarm clock. And so I got to a point in my life where I started to get okay with sickle cell. And then I was diagnosed with chronic pulmonary embolism, where my body would develop blood clots, but in my lungs, without warning. That became scary because I couldn't control it. I had no say in it. I was on blood thinners and it would still happen. And so it was another challenge that I had to figure out How am I going to be able to deal with this? But in a real way, not delusional, not in the sense of, well, I'm going to beat this thing, or I can beat it. It was different. This was something that I had to accept. I had to learn as much as I could and take it from that perspective. So I took it slow, you know, and I realized that there were some dietary things that I can do to minimize inflammation in my body, to increase blood flow. So that was one of the challenges. And so as I transitioned, when I was told I had that illness, I completely went vegan. I completely went, I went full on a gym addict. You know, I started doing things that people with sickle cell will tend to not do.
Yes, yeah.
You know, so going to the gym, exercising, pushing myself, pushing my limits was one of the things that I did. Changing my diet was one of the things that I did. And then from there, I started feeling pain, but it wasn't regular pain. I was in a boot on my foot, on my left foot, for about 6 to 8 months. Doctors didn't know if it was a hairline fracture. It wouldn't show up on scans. It wouldn't, only to find out that I would later be diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune disease. And so it was as if as soon as I developed some sort of normalcy in one area of my life, I would get hit with something else. And that one was the one when I said, you know what, I'm no longer going to consider myself Mr. Survival, because I keep being given these opportunities to prove that I can survive. And I was like, maybe I'm speaking it into the atmosphere. So let me stop saying I'm Mr. Survival. Let me stop saying it. I need to say Mr. Abundance or Prosperity or something else, because it's not working for me. But that was another challenge that I had to endure. I had to do low dose chemo to kind of help with that. And it was a tough battle, but I made sure that I didn't allow it to affect my spirit and my mind. And that is the hardest thing to do, is to physically be in a place where you feel miserable, but to somehow mentally remind yourself, I'm not my body. There's more to life than just this and what's happening to me right now.
Yeah.
And all of this pain and everything that I'm enduring is temporary if I'm able to keep my mind stayed on the things that I needed to. Yeah.
Wow. And how did that go on to get into the prostate cancer? When did you get that diagnosis?
That diagnosis actually happened last May. And that to me was probably one of the only illnesses that I can honestly say in the back of my mind I was preparing for. Not necessarily intentionally, but on a subconscious level, because my dad had prostate, my uncle had prostate, my mom passed from cancer. So cancer was always something that in my head, I can honestly say, if there is any truth or in necessary the law of attraction, that's probably the one that I attracted. If there was anything that I could have attracted, because I believed it was a possibility. I believe that there's a high probability that I'm going to end up getting some form of cancer, you know, and I hate the fact that I thought like that. But the reality of it was, when I got the diagnosis, it knocked the wind out of me, but I wasn't shocked. I wasn't shocked. And so I heard it, I accepted it, I embraced it, and I also embraced the fact that I was going to kick cancer's butt. I knew it.
And you did. And you did. Tell me, what was the process like? Because for anyone who might be going through the process, especially someone who has a chronic illness, how did you prepare your mind mentally and physically to be able to go through that pain?
I thought about all of the pain I've already had to deal with.
Yeah.
And literally I compartmentalized in a sense. I said, all your life you've dealt with pain and challenges, your whole life. Regardless of how you felt it turned out, you've won. And so I looked at it from the perspective of, I've beaten every obstacle that's been sent my way. So as far as I'm concerned right now in life, I'm undefeated.
Yeah.
So I have to look at cancer in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm undefeated. And if I can keep that, if I can just keep that in a sense, that swagger, that you've overcome so much. What is cancer? It's just something else that I need to overcome. And so when you look at it like that, you can look at it on a day-to-day basis, because I was able to make it through 5 days of radiation for 3.5 months, 5 days every day, 3.5 months. And I had to literally break it down every day for 30 minutes. You have to endure this treatment. After the treatment, you may feel funny for a few hours. Sometimes that whole day, I didn't feel myself, but I had to just break it down in bite-sized chunks. And so this is how I felt Monday. Tuesday, this is how I feel Tuesday. I'm not thinking about Wednesday until Wednesday comes. I'm not thinking about Thursday until Thursday comes. I'm dealing with every day on a day-to-day basis and on a need to deal with basis.
Oh, wow.
And that's really the best way to deal with adversity. A lot of the times we get in our heads and we start thinking too far ahead instead of dealing with what we're dealing with on our plate immediately. That's
so true. And once you do it that way, you're not afraid. Your whole body's prepared to do it one day at a time.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. I like what you said, the mental health damage you talk about, because you said when a person fakes being well, that we all talk, we all clap for everyone, because there's so many people out there faking being well. What do you mean by that? And how can we help people who are going through that phase?
Yeah, the reality of it is, people don't necessarily fake pain and trauma. What we're really faking is we're faking being happy because of the pain and trauma. So we're not dealing with the traumatic issues. We'd much rather appear normal. We'd much rather appear happy. When in reality, the joy and the happiness you seek is in dealing with the pain and the trauma. And so a lot of people put on a happy face. And the biggest thing the biggest disservice you can do to yourself is pretending to be something that you're not. And so one of the most overused words to me in life is pleasure. People seek pleasure. People don't seek joy. People don't seek contentment. We seek pleasure. And we would much rather entertain ourselves with pleasure than we would in finding joy in overcoming our circumstances or even dealing with our circumstances. And so we put on a happy face. We put on a happy face and we fake it until other people believe we made it, because we know we'll never make it faking it. But we'll put on the happy face for others comfort, because we don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I know when there were times I was feeling ill, I'd rather stay away from everybody because I don't want to ruin anybody else's day or anybody else's fun. So we kind of go into our cubby holes but the reality of it is people are much better equipped. People are so much more open-minded than we give them credit for. People are more compassionate than we actually give them credit. We look at the news, we look at the world, and we think this is reality, but it's really not. It's a skewed perspective of reality. And they know how to feed our emotions. But the reality of it is people at their core are good. People at their core are compassionate. And when we come out of our shell, we'll be surprised at how many people are open to being allies in our joy and in our peace, more so than in our suffering and in our misery.
And that brings me to my village, your village question, because you say you have found your joy from your village or circle of friends and family that's helped you during challenging time. A lot of people don't understand the meaning of this because a lot of people like to just seclude themselves. But for you, and I understand this because when you have the meaningful people who really understand, how has that helped you?
Having the right circle is so important. It's so important. Nipsey Hussle, the rapper, said something. He said, if you don't have people around you in your circle that encourages you to and I'm paraphrasing in a sense, to help you achieve and to help you fly, then you really don't have a circle. What you have is a cage. And so everyone, we call it selfish, for a lack of better terms, but it's really not selfish. I prioritize the people that are in my circle because I have people in my circle who I look up to and I learn from. I have people in my circle that I can say that we're all on the same playing field as well. And then I have people in my circle who might not be at that particular level. And so why is that important? The people that I look up to, I learn from, and they help me grow. I share that with people that are on the same level with me, and it creates a sense of camaraderie and accountability. And then the ones that are not on that level, I now can teach. I now can help grow. And so now it's a circle of in a sense that we're all dependent upon each other for our growth. Those that are on the higher level of the spectrum, they need to be able to share. And that's their way of giving back. And so I take that and I share with mines. And then we take that and now you have just an evolving perpetual circle of people with the intention of holding each other accountable, nurturing each other, helping each other grow. And when you have that kind of circle, you have no choice but to be your best self. You have no choice but to be your best self. And so even when I'm feeling down, those on my level can relate. The ones who are not, the ones who are on the higher echelon per se, are going to say, you can get through this. You can do this. Stay encouraged, believe. And the ones who aren't, and the ones who may be looking from a downward angle looking up, they're looking at it and saying, wow, if he can do it, if they can do it, then I can do it. And it's the circle of life. It's the circle of life. So my circle is important. I don't just look for people in my circle that are going to praise me for, oh my goodness, you're such a warrior, you're so awesome. No, I look at people in my circle that say, I think you can push a little harder than this.
Yeah.
You can do a little more,
That's really good. Before I get to my final question, when you look at your everyday life, how do you stay motivated, especially when you're going through those challenges, and just how do you stay motivated?
I will tell you that I have a why. I have a why that is bigger than any challenge or excuse. Having a why is so important. He who has a why can overcome any what And that's how I like to look at it. If your why is bigger than your what, and that what is whatever you're dealing with,
Yes.
you'll find the how to get through it.
That's true.
And so my son, he literally has no excuse not to do what he wants to do in life.
Yes.
He has no excuse because his dad hasn't given him an out. And so that why I imagine if I quit, I've basically given him a reason to quit.
Yes.
You know, my wife, my siblings, my mentees that I work with every day, I can only imagine if I decided to just close up shop, you know, what example have I set for them?
No.
And so my why is way too big for me to quit.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I have to keep that with me as well. The why. Always have the reason that keeps you going. Finally, how can we learn not to grow tired of the pain and suffering that we are born with? Because people get frustrated, they get tired. Like, oh, this is enough of this. How can we learn not to get tired and frustrated by all the suffering and pain we're going through?
I will say it's a principle. And what I mean by that is life isn't personal. Life is principle. And so our principles become pillars. And so when you're tired, and rightfully so, when you're tired and you're frustrated, we should take the time to be aware of our fatigue, our frustration. We tend to suffer because we cannot embrace the reality. You are tired. You have every right to be tired. Accept it, embrace it, and know that you have the right. And now that you've accepted the fact that you're tired and you're embraced, now figure out, okay, what do I need to do now? What can I do in spite of whatever I'm dealing with? What can I do? You might not be able to do everything, but what can I do? And can I do it in a way that really exemplifies who I want to be or who I am already? You know, I choose to be excellence. And so it doesn't matter, whatever little thing that I can do, I'm going to try to exemplify and make sure that I stand out in that one particular area. And if that's just getting up in the day and making one post that can touch someone, then that's all. That's the best that I can do. Then that's the best that I can do. And I have to accept and understand that I can always better my best.
Yes.
And so if that's the best today, maybe tomorrow I can do a little better, you know?
That's why I'm so honored. I'm really grateful to take this time out of your busy schedule to talk to you. I mean, you're such an inspirational. You've gone through so much pain yourself, but you've never seen it as an obstacle because you've now realized actually it's giving you that reason to keep living and not just living, but to keep teaching others on how to live without pain. I really appreciate this. Any final words from yourself?
I just want to encourage somebody to know that whatever you're dealing with it's really a means to get you to. So whatever you're going through, it's really just a throughway to get you to your destiny, your purpose, and your divine unfoldment. And so these challenges are not here to destroy you. They're not here to break you, believe it or not. They are here to refine you. And so when you look at it from that perspective, then you'll understand that every challenge is a blessing. And if you can tap into what that blessing is, your life is limitless. But you have to decide. You have to decide that what I'm dealing with is here to aid me and not hurt me. And once you do, the world will open up. The world will open up for you.
That is so true. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you.